My name is Laija. I'm with the Environmental Protection Agency. I'm an environmental scientist through my education, but I also handle public involvement for the Hanford office. We're regulators, and what that means is we regulate cleanup of Hanford. We're basically there to make sure the cleanup gets done right to meet all our environmental standards. So DOE is responsible for cleaning up the site, and we're responsible for regulating the cleanup. Again, just making sure that it's cleaned up to meet all our environmental standards. The reason we have two regulators is to help divide the work. Because it's such a large and complex site, having both of us involved allows us to make sure that we're meeting all of the state's requirements as well as all of our federal regulations as well. EPA has had a few accomplishments that we're fairly proud of. The first one was in the early 1990s when we stopped liquid discharge at the Hanford site. That liquid waste was making it to groundwater and contaminating it as well. So when we were able to stop that in the early 1990s, that was a huge accomplishment. The second was the construction of ERDIF. That's the disposal site out there on the Hanford site, the Environmental Restoration Disposal Facility. It's the first of its kind. Usually at other EPA cleanups, we send our waste to an appropriate landfill, but this is the first time we had a landfill constructed specifically for a cleanup. So we're fairly proud of that as well. We have an office in Richland, Washington, and we're 9 people. So the 9 of us handle the regulation of the federal standards on site. Our day-to-day activities consist of going to meetings, having a lot of conversations with the Department of Energy and the Washington State Department of Ecology to coordinate cleanup on the Hanford site. We also have public meetings and workshops that we attend, and when requested, we'll meet with tribal nations to discuss cleanup as well. That's actually a really good question. We often get asked in public settings if a state cleanup is better than a federal cleanup. And I mean, that's a common misconception. Actually, when we do a federal cleanup, we do that under CERCLA, which is a federal regulation. And in order to do that, we have to consider all of the state requirements as well. What are their cleanup standards? So that is incorporated into the federal cleanup. So we're actually meeting all the substantial portions of state requirements as well as the federal ones. The current cleanup focus is on cleaning up the areas located along the Columbia River. EPA fully supports that. We want to protect and preserve the Columbia River and all the people who use it and all the animal life and plant life that depend on it as well. So cleaning up the areas along the river is one, and the second is cleaning up groundwater on the site. There's about 80 square miles of contaminated groundwater on the center of Hanford. And we've put in we're finishing constructing a huge pump and treat system that's actually going to clean up all that contaminated water, and that should get started early in 2012. The first thing I would suggest to people is to go to hanford.gov and join our listserv, because through the listserv to let people know of upcoming public meetings, of documents that are out that the public can read and provide comments on how to improve it, or just to even let us know this doesn't make any sense. Can you bring it down so other people can understand it as well? And we also have workshops and other events that take place. So I would say joining the listserv so you can be aware of opportunities to be involved would be one of the first steps to being more aware of what's going on at Hanford. We also have a citizens advisory group called the Hanford Advisory Board. They meet often once to twice a month on different types of meetings, and they're all citizens representing different groups, and that definitely participating in their meetings is a good way to become more aware of what's going on and to make your voice heard so you can provide input to the agencies on the decisions we're making out on the Hanford site. I think the EPA is one of the agencies that really pushes for considering public values when it comes to cleanup decisions. It's actually part of our decision-making process that we must consider what the public has to say before we finalize a decision.